Welcome back to the Chosen Life podcast, back for a third week. Man, this guy started with me from day one. When I conceived the idea of a Chosen Life podcast, I said there's only one person that can be the first initial guest. He was there for the launch of the book, the Bible 3.0, the 6 Commandments of the Chosen Life. He's here in our new studio as we are now launching the audiobook of the book. He's the one and only George Tremis. George, welcome back to the Chosen Life.
Jonathan, always a pleasure. Thank you for having me be part of this incredible journey that I've watched you go on over the last 3 years. It feels like almost like just yesterday, but that's a sign of something fantastic, that the time goes by before you even know it. So I'm just glad to be part of it and all the growth and self-improvement that's happened along the way, being part of your journey. So thank you.
Well, listen, man, you meet me. I think I'm going in the boxing ring. I'm going to fight a charity boxing match. I meet you. I end up going into fitness competition, double medal winner. That was awesome.
Fantastic.
Writing a book, man, you have brought me so much energy and positivity, and I thank you for that. And I want to start off today with a not so funny story, but more inspirational, because as we were going off the air last week, you made a mention to me kind of off the cuff about driving. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And what did you say to me?
I hope you didn't close your eyes while you were driving.
So there's one thing about, when you're stuck in traffic and it don't move at all, right? Like it ain't moving. You can see the accident and everything's... I've been once in a snowstorm, George, where 2 hours nobody moved. You literally had to close your engine and you are just done. You're stuck, right? There's one thing like that and you just close your eyes and you just breathe and everything else. When you told me that comment, it made me think back to a story I talked about in the Bible 3.0, the 6 Commandments of the Chosen Life, and where I shared a lot of my stories in memoir, as far as not because it's a memoir per se, but to help people understand the concepts within the book. So I share my stories so other people can think of their stories. So there was one time when I did close my eyes while driving. I was in a snowstorm and there was a truck in front of me. And I'm in the far right lane. There's 3 lanes. Okay, so I'm in the far right lane and this truck is blowing all sorts of sleet and snow at me. And you can't even see the lanes, okay? There's so much snow and sleet that you can't even see where you're going. You can't even see which lane you're inside. And I'm not getting nervous with this truck like throwing back at me. And I don't have snow tires. So I said to myself, I'll switch to the middle lane. It'll be safer in the middle lane. So I switched to the middle lane. But what happens is there's no grooves for the lanes, okay? It's that much coming down. And this has never happened to me before. It may never happen again. I lose control of the car. My steering wheel starts doing this, okay? So the car starts sliding into the far left lane, and then it starts sliding back from the left lane, middle lane to the right lane. So, true story. Close my eyes. I said, oh crap, I'm gonna die. And I cry. I let go of the steering wheel. I just sit there, and I've accepted it. I realize it's my time, and I'm gonna go now. Just take a breath, let go, and just close my eyes. Well, I'm obviously here unless this is the afterlife or I'm an angel of some sorts, which I did think I was at a young age, but we'll talk about that another show perhaps. But I open up my eyes and I'm in the far right lane. Past it, there's now, when you have like the shoulder.
Yeah.
So there's some sort of shoulder there and it looks like it's just an open cliff, but there's an invisible looking wire fence. So my car is right up against this wire fence.
Touching it?
Yeah, touching it.
Okay.
So I get out of the car. I'm like, wow, I think I'm still alive. And my car's perfectly parked, by the way. I just shifted into park and closed the car. I get out. I look at the front. Not a speck of damage. I walk to the back. My back bumper's off. So my back bumper hit the fence.
Oh.
And bumper came off, but that power allowed the car to stop. Now, funny thing about it is, looking further ahead once and I could drive the car, by the way, just I have no bumper. I had to take the bumper, put it inside the back seat. There were some parts of that cliff that had no invisible fence. So if I had gone the same route I had, the car would have done a little toppling over and may not have been so good, right?
Oh, wow.
So I said, wow, I think an angel picked up my car and brought the car over, because it's also not like it was midnight and there were no cars, George. There were cars in every freaking lane going in that direction. I should have been hit 7, 10 times. That's what was happening. Why did I go and I got scared, but I was at peace? Because I knew I'm done. What am I going to do? The wheel is out of control.
Yeah.
I can't fix this. I'm not a race car driver, and there's too many cars around me. Not one single car hit me. How is that possible? I'm like, damn. So I come home, tell my mom, I call my mom, tell my mom this. She says to me, you need to go see the rabbi, and you need to go put on the tefillin, and you need to go thank God. So I go see a rabbi, I go put on tefillin, I thank God, and it always stuck with me. And that was a turning point in my life. Remember last week when I talked about that lady that I met, and she decided to change her life journey after I spoke at her gala?
Yep.
This was a turning point for me. And I came to realize all that stuff that's stressing me out, all that stuff that's such a big deal in my life, it can go away in a second because it ain't that important anymore. I've been given another chance. God has come to me and said to me, hey, you know what? Guess what? It ain't as bad as you think, and you're putting too much on yourself. So maybe now appreciate, I've given you another chance at life. Maybe you won't take it so seriously anymore and just go enjoy the ride a little bit and not put so much on yourself. And things started to evolve from there. That started the trend for me. I started and stopped many times. I relapsed, but I could always look back on that event and I saw things differently. And I was so grateful for it. And so this is where we are today. The Bible 3.0 does not happen if I perish in a car accident on that incident. I'm not going to claim that I know that an angel did it. I'm not going to claim that I am an angel. I'm not going to claim this is real or we're all fantasizing this. But I was put for a reason at the end of the day, and I'm so grateful for it. And even I take a look back here and I look at this book, I still look at this, George, and say it's almost 400 pages long. How the hell did I write that? How is that possible? Like, man, there's times I can't sit and write a sentence on an email. And here I went every Sunday for 2 years and either wrote one chapter, wrote 2 chapters, edited the chapters. Not like I sat 7 days a week in 24 hours and wrote a book. I went one day on Sunday from 7 to 8 a.m. till 12 p.m., 1 p.m., 2 p.m. And that's how I wrote it. And I got to have that focused energy. I was motivated, I was mindful, and I was ready to improve my life. And so this 100%. Book is here now because of my stories and where I got to be. And this is where now, George, after we got this down to the introduction of the book, man, I thought being in the physical format, I'd be on such a high in life. But little did I know the audiobook version of the book would blow me away to another level.
Well, I mean, I think you're not giving yourself enough credit when you say, how did I write this book 400 pages? Not to say it's an easy task. Coming from someone who's also finishing up the first draft edit of his book, i.e. me, it's not an easy undertaking, but it's clear that you did it with motivation, mindfulness, and a desire for self-improvement, not just for yourself, but for everybody that's touched by the book. So I'm not surprised that you wrote it, knowing you and being blessed to have known you really well over the last 3 years in particular. But yeah, I mean, you said that there's a audiobook now, correct?
There's the audiobook.
The audiobook, yeah. So absolutely. I think that's a huge, huge thing to bring to everybody because many people, let's be honest, have trouble sitting down and reading. And the amount of time we spend in our car, I mean, just today I'm going to spend 2 hours coming here and going back, let alone my other meetings, etc. So that's valuable time that if somebody's dedicated to self-improvement, not say you don't listen to some nice music every now and then, put the windows down, but hey, let's make some use of that time. And I can't think of any other good thing to do at the time other than listen to a quality audiobook.
But this is where I can see how many people start and stop a project and why things don't come to fruition. I remember sitting with the publisher and pitching them the idea that it's going to be an audiobook. It has to be an audiobook. We can't just have it in written format. Can't just have a physical and ebook. It has to be an audiobook in this day and age. And they were just getting started. Like it's a smaller publishing house, so audiobooks weren't their cup of tea, but it was something that they were growing into. So I said, look, respectfully, if a person goes into a corner, writes a book without an editor, without assistance at all, don't think the product's gonna be that fabulous. If Roger Federer went to play tennis on his own without his coach, don't think he's winning any championships here. So a person that goes to their computer and puts in a microphone and speaks it and does the audiobook that way, while it's great when you're starting off and everything else, there are limitations on it unless you have the professionals that can take you to the next level respectfully. And I said, if I ain't doing this the best possible, I ain't doing it at all. That's how it's going to go down. So I said to the publisher, are you ready for me to blow your mind? And they said, hit me. I said, we are not going to do an audiobook the traditional format. It's boring and it ain't working because I'm not that into audiobooks. The same way you said to me off the air, yeah, I don't know if the audiobook's going to work for me. Well, George Tremis, I'm going to challenge you because I prepared an audiobook that I would listen to. I've heard this audiobook now 50 times during the editing process and it never got stale. And there's a reason why. You want the secret?
Yeah.
I can share the secret on the air?
Yeah, give me the secret.
Okay,
give us the secret.
I'm giving you all the secret sauce. There you go. I did not hire an audiobook professional to do the audiobook. I went in a different direction. I hired a music producer.
Nice.
A person that has won awards, was in a very well-to-do rock band that was known for a long, long time, and came from the classical piano scene, went into music production, was a VP at a very high music label. This guy produced my theme song for The Chosen Lawyer, named Ron Lopata. Shout out to Ron. Ron's been on this podcast before. And I came to Ron when we did the theme song together, and I told him that I got the book deal, I'm writing the book, and hey, have you ever done an audiobook, and would you think about working, because we worked so well together on the theme song, let's do the audiobook together. And he's like, I've always wanted to get into audiobooks. He's done every form of production possible. He's like, man, because imagine, he works with an award-winning artist to prepare their CD or, their audio music off of Spotify and Apple Music, etc., right? And now taking that same formula, I was in the same studio where Drake would be and recording in the booth, and you have the sound producer. We did it the real frickin' McCoy. And then Ron, throughout, because Ron had just started introducing, he went back to the classical roots of his musical life, started putting music out there to the world. He had one song that had over 1 million hits on Spotify. And early on in our audiobook production, as we're listening back week to week together, all of a sudden there's music embedded in the book. And I said, Ron, what's this music? He goes, I thought it'd be cool if I took some of my stuff because it's been doing pretty well. And I thought, because he's doing music in the mindfulness meditation space. That's the genre he's going for in a lot of his music right now. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And he says to me, I thought it fits really well into the genre of your book.
That makes sense.
And man, George, it was a freaking winner, because all of a sudden, as you're listening to the book and you get to a peak moment, all of a sudden the music comes on and it goes up and up and up and down, 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 down. And then as the chapter's about to end, all of a sudden the music reappears. So you don't know when the music's going to hit you, but it's like a performance. You're not listening to an audiobook to read a book. You're actually listening to a performance.
I've listened to hundreds. I'm not even exaggerating, hundreds of audiobooks. And I can't think of a single book that took that approach or had that kind of interesting innovation to it. So, okay, so where do I get it?
There's more, George. There is more. I'm not even through on this. So, we talked before that the chosen life, that from the chosen life, right? We have the Bible 3.0, the 6 commandments of the chosen life, that the podcast was really the chosen life.
Yep.
And it was born before the book, but they embedded within each other, right? And so the book split up into 3 parts, right? Learning how the body, mind, and soul work. The 6 commandments that everybody should have as to their life systems. And then the road to enlightenment. So Ron came to me and said, hey, Jonathan, you know what? Each part is very, very specific and succinct. I'm going to now write new music for part 2 because part 2 is a different flavor. So not only did he put his own music, which is already out there, he went, wrote, produced, recorded, and embedded original music just for the other parts of the book. How freaking cool is that?
It's very cool. And I got to say something, though.
Yes.
When we were talking off camera, so to speak, and I said that I didn't know if it worked for me, I need to clarify. Please. Not because I don't think it would be something I could listen to beginning to end, let alone now that you tell me you've introduced all these cool things to it, but rather because I find myself pausing so often when I'm reading to reflect. So my thought was that I'd be stopping the audio all the time to reflect on something that I just read. In fact, I'm still going through the book, not because it's a hard read, because it's actually a read that triggers a lot of thought. It's not the kind of book you read to get through or audiobook to get through. It's to grow through. And that's why I thought it would be challenging to listen to the Audible book. But now when you tell me that, I'm sold.
I have a different approach. Now, I'm not saying this is the right approach. Everybody's got a different approach in life. Everybody can do things differently. Some people can choose to read the ebook on their phone, on their tablet, whatever. They can take the physical book, sit there on the subway, the train, the plane, whatever, and read the physical book. Some can put in their pods and listen to it as an audiobook. The way I listened to the audiobook was how I used to read my Winnie the Pooh books back when I was a little kid. So back in my day, we had something called a cassette, which was before CDs, right? And you pop in the music in your cassette player and you press play. While the book is playing, you had the physical book and you listen to the book while reading the book at the same time. That's how I read the Bible 3.0. And what I found, George, was very effective for me was not to start and stop. Every chapter I've heard it 10 times already. What I found was listening to the full chapter. And sometimes I was just in a different zone. I'm like, whoa, hold on a minute here. I just heard so much. And I was not listening to my book as an author. I was listening to it as a reader. I went into it with the beginner mindset that this book is all original to me. I'm not in touch with it. And I was able to separate myself as the introducer to the connector, boom. And so I approached it as a reader, and I would go and have lunch, come back, re-listen to it again. I couldn't believe how many little things were embedded in there. And I'm like, damn, where did that come from? Where did that come from? And this is not...
And you wrote it.
Remember when we talked about the idea of yoga and where I had a yoga breakthrough, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't I was the most flexible yogi and I knew every posture. It was at the point that I could just lie down in Shavasana, dead man pose, and kind of take my soul out of my body and just watch myself and just be in a total form of relaxation. It was that dead man pose, that relaxation I took as an author. And when I wrote the book, I was in a complete state of mindfulness. I was just totally one with the writing. There's nobody else around me. I don't know where I am. I don't know what time of day it is. I'm just there. And I challenge anybody now, you go to read a chapter of the book, you go listen to the audiobook. Don't think about, I have to go to the grocery store, I have to make a doctor's appointment, when the last time I did my oil change. Give yourself a challenge. I'm going to listen to the book for 10 minutes and literally just listen and do nothing else. Be mindful, be one with the book. It's amazing how much you can get out of it in that sense. And that's what I did as an author. That's what I do as a reader. And that audiobook, man, it takes me to another level. So I'm so grateful that I thought of the process. I wanted that process. I fought hard for it. And man, I gotta say, I'm as happy, if not more happy with the audiobook as I am with the physical book.
Well, I can't wait to hear it. And actually, you got me thinking that I wonder, so not only is it cool that you're reading the book, so listening to the audiobook, I get to hear you read it to me, but I'm starting to wonder something that I'm gonna have to test for myself. Is it possible that we will pick up on different things, we as in people will pick up on different things and learn different things through a different medium of absorption? So I'm thinking my brain will probably read and react differently while I'm reading as opposed to listening to you. So I may gain insights from the audiobook triggered in my brain that I wouldn't by reading myself, no matter how many times I read through it. I don't know. I don't know if a study like that's ever been done, but that's super interesting to me, and I'm going to use myself as a guinea pig. Or a test animal, if you will.
You are a safe one, obviously, that no harm will be done to the animal.
Yeah. So totally humane testing on myself.
Absolutely. But yes, because why did I not hire somebody else to do the audiobook? Well, first of all, I do my podcasting, so I've been told I have the voice for it. Some people like a deep voice, whatever. But when I read out the audiobook, here's a little secret as an author. I told you the highs and lows, the emphasis, what I wrote it and what I meant by it and where I'm taking you. You can hear it in my voice. That's what my thinking was, and I project that with my tone. So one of the things was the producer, Ron, it took forever to get going. Like, it took us a full 3-hour session to read 3 bloody pages. And I said, oh man, I am screwed. I don't know how to read. I thought this would be the easiest thing in the world. It's like when I showed up to do a fitness competition and I went for a workshop for posing and I said, what's the big deal? You just flex. That's it. And then I realized, oh no, there's a lot more to it than that. You don't just come and read. Today I went to the store. Today I'm going here. No. Today I went to the store. Tomorrow, and high, low,
intonation,
same tone, everything.
Tonality, yeah.
And man, George, I thought it was editing a book is interesting and going back and having little comments from the editor. Try getting the finished product from the audio producer, grabbing the book and following it word by word, line by line, and then having, I missed a word. I added a word in. Between 129 and 134, I did this. Between 1056 and 1137, and then having to go and delete it, redo it, but in the exact tone, exact voice that I sounded that day. I went one day with Ron, and I had lost my voice the day before. There was no voice at all. I was as sick as a bird, and I didn't want to tell him that, but it was bad. It was bad. Yeah. I was drinking hot tea all day, got my voice through. We recorded the full session, but there were times you could hear like little snorts, or you could hear my nose, nasally.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man. And there were times they were drilling downstairs in the office complex we were in that they were not supposed to do that. There's so many challenges just to read a book. And you think, I've been reading my whole life. No, there's reading and then there's reading.
Yeah.
And it was one of the biggest challenges I ever went through. And I learned so much for it. And I was so grateful for it. And when you see the finished product, now you can appreciate when Led Zeppelin, when the Rolling Stones went and recorded their album, and the producer told them to fix this, fix that, and they're probably getting so frustrated. But when you hear the final product, man, it is so worth it.
Oh, I believe it. And I also think to myself, the expression is you attain mastery when you put in 10,000 hours, I believe it is. Something like that. So in the course of writing the book, my own book myself, and just thinking about not only did you write the book, but you recorded the audio, you had to have put in 10,000 hours. And when they say, the credibility comes from writing the book, yes, of course, you have to have quality content and good concepts and ideas and things to help with self-improvement in whatever field or aspect. But of course, you're going to become a master on the topic to speak about it because you put in 10,000 hours creating it. So I just had that epiphany, and it's definitely a labor of love, but it's a labor of growth as well. I would think you would agree. I mean,
I can't even tell you how many thousands of hours I spent writing the book, editing the book, re-editing the book. Like each chapter ended up undergoing at least 10 different edits. It's some kind of comment from one of the editors, and then I thought we're all good, and then a new editor comes in, and they redo the whole process again. There is only one chapter in the book that there is not once. It was the original, not a single edit, nothing. That chapter was freaking perfection. And when I recorded the audiobook version of it, I did it in one take, perfection. Did not miss a word, did not add a word. That chapter was freaking gold. That was a chapter I was most proud of at the end of the day. It was the one chapter I was so inspired because I thought I had lost chapters in the book, and we found it at the end through all sorts of searches. It's very scary when you have stuff in the cloud and you don't back up properly, but we got that all fixed. I got so motivated. I went to write that chapter. Ron, when I told him my inspiration behind that chapter and where I was going with it, because I said, this chapter's all screwed up, dude. I'm going to tell you right now. This chapter is like somebody else wrote the chapter completely. It makes no sense whatsoever, except for the fact the book's already done by the time you get to the chapter. So this chapter is now the encore, and this is the chapter which is going to lead to a future book, possibly. Ron went off and recorded special music just for one chapter. He went to the freaking recording studio at 2 o'clock in the morning, came back to me the next day at 9 a.m., and said, hey, what do you think of this? He hit it perfectly.
I think you should give him another shout out, because to go do that at 2 a.m., that shows some dedication to you.
Listen,
and
man,
his craft.
Look, Ron Lopata, the guy in his life in music, on the same token of it, he has worked with so many major music stars that normally, I don't think the guy would even answer my phone, let alone come meet me in the parking lot, walk together to the studio, go share a bubble tea together every single time, and understand, because I noticed in his eyes, like I could see him through the corner of my eye every single chapter I was recording. I could see when he was like kind of confused, or it was resonating with him, or maybe it got him a little upset because maybe I was touching a nerve or something. And then he started to see the picture, and he understood it so well that the music he created was in the vibe of the music. He became one with those chapters. So When I had my book launch party and he introduced me at the book launch, is because he lived, breathed, and slept with me the same freaking way. So this book, I understand, is not Jonathan Hacohen. This is a production with Awakened Press, all the editors, the book designer, Ron Lopata for the audio side. A team went into this. A village went into the book. And that's the only way. If you're going to do it, you have to rely on the right people. And I was very lucky to have the right team. So I would challenge people. I want to give this theme at the end of the day with the audiobook a very simple challenge. Because my therapist tells me all the time, when I go for therapy, and I've been in therapy for years and I love it, because for me, it's the gym for my mind. And he says to me, are you reading a book? What have you read? And he says to me, it's enough to read 1 page a day. Not 1 chapter a day, 1 page a day. So you picked up a copy of the Bible 3.0. I don't have time to read a chapter today, tomorrow. Fine. Every day, just read 1 page. You'll get it done in a year then, but you will get it done. There's enough pages for 1 page a day. You're listening to the audiobook. Listen to 5 minutes a day. Everybody has 5 minutes in their life. Everybody has 10 minutes to read or listen to 1 page. That's 1 page more than you've done yesterday. And maybe it'll steer you to one new direction. So don't limit yourself. Don't say, I never read. I never listen. Try something different. I can't. I won't. I shouldn't. I went out to set. I said, if I'm going to write one book in my life, it's going to be the greatest book ever written. It's going to be the most interesting audiobook ever produced. And I wanted to do something that if I was going to pick it up, I would want to read it. I would want to listen to. And so at the end of the day, here it is. Folks, you don't have to go create it. Just go enjoy it. It's there.
Exactly.
So, George Tremis, how far have you gotten through the Bible 3.0, and where are you at now in your readings?
So I bounced around. So I don't know what percentage of it entirely that I've read, but I've bounced around at different spots. Even when I talked to you one time, off camera as a friend, and I talked about some challenges because we go through roller coaster. That's what life is, right? Yeah. And you said, you need to go read this chapter. And so I'd go to different chapters at different points. But it's definitely had an impact on me every time I have read it. And it was part of that comprehensive toolkit that I use, to overcome some of these challenges. Because if you're always trying to self-improve, you are going to be climbing another mountain. You are going to be getting to thin air where it's hard to keep pushing forward, which it's on my list to do an Everest climb one day and actually experience that firsthand, not just figuratively speaking. But yeah, that's where it's really helped me. And I think that now with the audiobook, I'm going to be able to have even more opportunities to absorb it. So yeah, I just want to know, where can I download it? Can I get it from Audible or?
You can go on Audible. You can go on Apple Books and download from the audio section, Google Books. It's all out there, George. So whatever format you need, if you go to the Bible3, the number 3.com, you'll find our Instagram account, a link to it, a link to purchase the book. It's all there on the website, the Bible, the number 3.com, the Bible3.com, and we'll help direct you to whatever format you want the book in. You want to get in multiple formats, it's up to you. Again, I challenge people, try it a little differently. Put on the audiobook, pick up the physical book, and find how much different you'll absorb the book that way. And as we end today's episode, I owe George Tremis a huge thank you. Not for the reason he thinks, but I am going to thank you today because you left a mark on this book and my life recently. So I appreciate that. I was at a book signing at a bookstore cafe not that long ago in downtown Toronto. And it was a bad snow. Like, we're in the spring, George, and hail is outside, okay? It is hailing.
Oh, yeah.
And so bad weather, not a huge turnout because of the weather. I told the store we're going to still keep it going. And as I'm starting to pack up, at the end of the signing, meeting people, this gentleman walks in and says to me, hey, are you the author? Hey, can I see? I've come all this way to purchase the book. And he came from very far, drove over an hour. And I said, let me learn about you, everything else. And he says to me, yeah, George Tremis sent me. He told me, this is the book for me.
How I know.
I'm at the point in my life, I'm a younger guy. I'm making transitions professionally and personally. And I need a roadmap. I need direction. I need hope. George said, I got to meet you and I got to read this book. George Tremis, again, it's one of those things. The book touches you. You touch somebody else. Now he's going to read it. Now he'll find his roadmaps and then he can touch others. And it spreads that way. So thank you for helping spread the word that way. He's a great young man. And I ended up staying for an hour longer. We had a great conversation together. I learned all about his life. And I said to him, I'm sitting here almost 50 years old looking at you in your 20s. I see a lot of you and me because you have that wide eye, but you're scared. You're scared as hell. You're scared of making a mistake. You're scared of where you want to go with it. I want you to let go of that fear. You drove all the way here. You did the hard part. You showed up and you got the book. Now just start reading and see what happens. Let go of the fear. Let anxiety go. Stop regretting the past. Don't feel the depression. Acknowledge it and know now you're here. You're not there. You're not in the past anymore.
Yep.
The road ahead is bright. And we hugged and it was fabulous. So thank you for sharing that energy, bringing that person over to me.
Thank you for doing that for him and with him, because he reached out to me afterwards and he let me know. And you definitely touched his life, and so is the book and your message. So keep it up. Thank you.
Love it. Love it. Well, for people, questions, comments, you can reach George Tremis. You can find him on social media. We have the link. Jonathan Hacohen. You can reach me as Chosen Lawyer. We're here to help inspire. From whatever you watch today, if you want to share your stories with us or you have a comment question, please, we're always engaging. Love to hear from you. And we'll be back next week with a new episode of the Chosen Life Podcast. Stay tuned.